Testing. Right, that appears to be functioning. For the purposes of these recordings, and for anyone who may eventually be viewing them, you may refer to me as Echo. I work within archival and cataloging services at a university which, for obvious reasons, I will not be identifying, nor will I be providing my actual name. I realize that may sound unnecessarily cautious, however, I would prefer to remain employed while I attempt to determine exactly what it is I've stumbled into. During routine catalog maintenance earlier this week, I discovered a section of the lower archive storage area that had apparently gone unopened for quite some time. Several filing cabinets had been pushed in front of what I initially assumed was a maintenance access door. It was not. It was an office. Or rather, what used to be one. The room itself appeared abandoned decades ago. Dust everywhere, water damage, older computer equipment, filing boxes, the sort of environment most archivists eventually become very familiar with. What stood out, however, was the workstation. The computer itself no longer functions. I attempted powering it on earlier this morning with no success. But connected to it was an external hard drive labeled Project Y. Now, ordinarily, something like that would simply be turned over to the university administration or logged into preservation processing. The issue is that this office was hidden. Not closed, not archived, hidden. And, perhaps unfairly, that makes me suspicious. So, for the moment, I have elected not to mention the drive to my coworkers until I understand what exactly this project was. If it is nothing important, then no harm done. If it is important, well, I would prefer to know anything before someone else decides what should happen to it. Additionally, I should clarify something before continuing. I am recording these logs directly from a work computer using fairly basic screen capture software. I do not currently have access to proper editing software on this machine, nor do I want to risk trying to download something lest the IT department get suspicious. So these videos may occasionally be somewhat disorganized. I also will not be editing interruptions or anomalies out of the recordings should any occur, primarily because I do not currently have the ability to do so. Secondarily, because I think preserving the footage exactly as it occurs is probably the more responsible option. The name that I found on this archive, the Meridian Foundation, is not a name that I recognize. Well, that seems concerning. Interesting. Most of this appears to be archival material, administrative documents, research notes, migration logs? Let's take a look. Some of these files are fairly extensive, so rather than spending 30 minutes reading documents aloud into a microphone, I will likely post screenshots or scans of anything particularly relevant in either the community section of the channel or through supplementary documentation linked in the description of these videos, assuming anyone besides myself ever watches these recordings. There seems to be quite an extensive amount of documentation. Whoever this Dr. A was, I don't recognize that, though I don't know why I would recognize an initial anyway. Right. I assume that is not actually gibberish, possibly some form of substitution cipher. I confess cryptography is somewhat outside my area of expertise. Unfortunately, I should probably stop here for now. It is currently the middle of the workday, and I cannot realistically dedicate several uninterrupted hours to dissecting a potentially unauthorized archive system while sitting in a university office. That tends to invite suspicion and questions. I will continue examining the drive later this evening when I have the opportunity to go through these files more carefully. In the meantime, if anyone viewing this recognizes the lettering from that password attempt, notices something I overlooked, or would like me to examine a particular directory or file more thoroughly in the next recording, feel free to mention it in the comments. I will also upload any documents I consider particularly important so people can review them independently. Assuming this is merely an abandoned research archive, then at worst this will all amount to an interesting historical curiosity. If not, well, I suppose we'll find out. End log.